Hey guys, how's it going? Today's video is going to be my November reading wrap-up, and if you saw the thumbnail, it is a very small one. So, I only read 2 books in November, which honestly is better than last November. I think last November I only read 1 book, but with NaNoWriMo and just being spread so thin and having so much on my plate this month, I just had a really hard time making time for reading. I did make a whole video about my burnout and all of that stuff, so I will link that above and below if you haven't seen it yet. But long story short, I'm really tired. I have way too much on my plate. I'm spreading myself way too thin, and something had to give, and apparently that thing was reading. The first book I read this month was Graceling by Kristen Cashore. I gave this an 8.5 out of 10. I really liked the concept of it. Essentially, the magic system is that some people are just gifted with really strong magical skills in one specific area. So they could have like magically enhanced cooking, or there's such a wide variety of it, which I think is a really interesting way to go about it. Our main character, Katza, has the grace of killing, so she's magically exceptional at killing people. She's basically the one responsible for carrying out the king's justice, if you will. And she's supposed to be going around killing everybody, but she tries to incapacitate them without killing them as much as possible, because even though she has magically enhanced killing powers, she doesn't like killing people. And the story is essentially her just rejecting her role and trying to figure out her life for herself and come to terms with who she is and what her powers are, etc, etc. Overall, I did like the premise. I like that idea for a magic system. I would have preferred if it was a little more fleshed out, but I like really in-depth, hard magic systems. So it's a personal preference for me. But I thought it was interesting. I thought Katza was an interesting character. She was cool and she was badass. I did not like the ending though. I found it just felt really flat. It didn't feel like things got wrapped up. I didn't really like the ending of the character arcs, and it just felt too open-ended to me and just unsatisfying. There is a twist at the end that I thought was really interesting, but even though it was an interesting twist, and even though it made the story interesting, and even though I enjoyed it, it kind of just raised a lot of questions, and it kind of started poking a lot more holes in the plot and the magic system, so it kind of backfired a little bit in that regard. Now, to be fair, this is a trilogy, but the second book takes place like 30 years before this one, and is a completely different world, a completely different set of characters. I'll rant about that in a minute. And then the third book is, I believe, after the events of this book, or a while after, I think. So maybe in the third book they pick up where this left off a little more and you get that satisfying ending, but it was just not too vague, but too casual of an ending almost. It was just like, okay, and then this happened, and this person does this, and this person's done this, and we'll figure it out later, is how it felt. So overall I liked it, but the ending just didn't do it for me. The second and final book I read was the sequel to that one, Fire, again by Kristen Cashore. Honestly, I'm not positive how I feel about this one yet, because the more I think about it, the lower my rating gets. So basically, this one is the story of a girl named Fire who lives in a completely different world with a completely different set of characters, a completely different magic system than the first book. Yes, comment? Yes. I really don't like that this is presented in the same series as Graceling, because it isn't. Like I said, it takes place like 30-ish years before, and there is one character that shows up in both books, but I'm not going to tell you who, because it kind of gives something away about, I guess, both books, if you think about it. So it's a spoiler, so I'm not going to mention it, but I feel like their role in this could have been filled by any other character. Like, it almost just felt like an Easter egg, the fact that it was a character from the first book. It could, and I think should have been, a different character. You could have had them with the exact same role, and it would have made so much more sense. Because this one has a different world, a different magic system. It doesn't have the Gracelings and Graces. They're just called monsters, and I still don't quite understand. They're like exceptionally beautiful, and they're usually just different animals, and they're like extra gorgeous. And there's one human, which I think is like a crossbreed, which is kind of weird when you think about it, because that means bestiality from what I understand, but maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's just bestiality. Anyway, I didn't like this one nearly as much. I didn't like the characters. I just felt like it kind of fell flat. Fire is interesting, but she's so much like Katza, but less badass. So, I don't know. It just wasn't it wasn't doing it for me. I think that a big part of it is that because this is supposed to be part of the trilogy, I kept going into it trying to find the parallels in the magic system and to see how they were related, and I just think that they're not. So I think that I ended up being a little more confused, and if I would have gone into this as a separate book in a completely separate world, not part of the series at all, I would have enjoyed it a lot more, but it was just not a well done series, companion, whatever it is. I don't know how much ranting I can do to avoid spoilers, but basically the magic system doesn't make sense. I don't like that it's part of the series. If you are going to read Graceling, read it before you read Fire, because the character that shows up in this book, essentially their actions in this one give away a spoiler in the first book. So I would just say, if you're going to read them both, read Graceling first, but you don't have to read Graceling to read Fire. And this one, again, I didn't like the ending. It just felt very meh. It did tie things up a little bit better than Graceling, but it didn't feel like it ended. Like, the story didn't really feel closed, and the way that they solved the main conflict of the story, I did not like at all. I thought it was such a cop-out. I didn't like how they did anything with it. I didn't like the way the ending was done, pretty much. And the more I think about it, the lower my rating gets. I'm going to say maybe 7 out of 10. Right now I'm feeling 7 out of 10 because I did enjoy reading it for the most part. I just didn't like the way it was written, and I wasn't really into the characters, and I didn't like the magic system or the conclusion, and the plot kind of fell flat. So I guess I did enjoy this book very much. And those were my 2 books that I read this month. Like I said, not a very great reading month. I kind of enjoyed one book, I didn't really enjoy another one, and I didn't do much reading, but that's kind of what I expect for myself for NaNoWriMo, because I know that something has to kind of fall to the wayside, and that's usually reading. I am thinking of making like a TBR for December after this, because I find that does help me know what to read and helps me read a little bit more, because I would really like to get more reading done in December. So we'll see. Any thoughts would be welcomed. And of course, in the comments, let me know if you read these books, what your thoughts were, if you agree, disagree. If you want to talk about anything more spoilery, you can reach out and message me on Twitter or my email. Both are in my description. But that will be all for today. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button to let me know, and subscribe to stay up to date with the rest of my videos. I'm posting videos every Wednesday and Sunday, usually reading or writing related. So I hope to see you guys next time, and until then, have a great day. Bye!